Chair of the Fire Safety Council meeting today. Sorry about that. Thank you. I should have told you to record earlier. So my apologies. So thanks everybody for coming to the Fire Safe Council meeting. I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We also have Brad Lopez with us, that is our vice chair. We have a first action that is needed to approve the agenda for the April meeting.
I move to approve. It's Don Palm.
Thanks, Don. Our first.
Second, Mayor Cowan.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved. Meeting minutes are or the action agenda is approved. The next thing is to approve the meeting minutes for March 2022, please.
Move to approve, Mayor Cowan.
Thank you, Mayor.
Second, Neil Van Alphen.
Thank you, Neil, for a second. All those in favor of approving the minutes? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved. Any member announcements?
Well, as usual, I have an announcement. We at the RCD are doing some outreach work, and of course, we always need good photos. And I had gotten a few from before a couple months ago, and I asked this. So if anybody else has any good photos of either vegetation management work, fire in progress that aren't engulfing someone's home in flames or otherwise too terrifying, we would love them to send those our way. And also, if you have any favorite websites that you go to for fire information, we would like to hear about what those are, but we'll talk more about that later.
Thanks, Tanya. Any other member announcements?
Yeah, I'm Jesse at Cape Valley. I just want to let everybody know that our local battalion chief, our local CAL FIRE battalion chief, Miguel Watson, and I have been speaking, and it sounds like he's going to be able to peel off some of his fuels crews to help with a little bit of fuels abatement along Rumsey Canyon Road, which is going to be really great for the residents up there, and we're pretty appreciative of it.
That's fantastic. Thanks for working on that, Chief, as well as Chief Sitter Ben. We really appreciate your support of Miguel. He's a great partner. Any other member announcements?
So, and this is Sitter. In addition to the work on Rumsey Canyon there, I just have finally got all my documentation in place, and I'm trying to start the mastication project on County Road 78A from the Cape Valley up to the bridge line. That's all.
That's great news. Thanks for your consistent efforts on that. It takes a long time to get these things done. We appreciate it, Ben. Any other member announcements? All right, let's get on to the reports, please. Coordinator report.
And I did see Don had his hand up.
Oh, did he? I'm sorry. Donna, did I miss you?
And maybe that was an accident.
No, it was absolutely an accident if it happened. Sorry.
That's okay. Thanks, Tom.
All right.
And welcome, Ron.
Well, thank you.
All right.
Great. So I'm just going to go over our schedule. We have lots going on. Obviously, our April meeting is happening now. The Cape Valley Fire Safe Council and Severa is still meeting weekly on Wednesdays on Zoom.
Do you want to go ahead and show your screen, Tanya?
Oh, shoot. I thought I was. I'm sorry.
I thought you might want to.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm waving my cursor around and everything. Okay. So we're having our meeting today. Cape Valley Fire Safe Council in Severa continues to meet weekly. West Winters Fire Safe Council, the steering committee is meeting monthly. So they had a meeting April 20th, and we'll be having another meeting on the 18th of May. Pleasance Valley Fire Safe Council is meeting the third Monday, so that's May 6th. We're continuing our Yolo County, our Solano Yolo leadership team meetings every fourth Monday. And so we just had one a couple days ago, and our next one's May 23rd. Our website advisory committee meeting, actually, we had one today, and we'll have more on that later. Our next CWPP steering committee meeting is on May 4th. That's just the steering committee. And then, oh gosh, I didn't change the date on that, but every fourth Thursday, there's a Northern California regional brown bag meeting, which is at noon. And that's coordinated by Mike Wilson of the California Fire Safe Council. He's the Northern California regional coordinator and has a lot of fire safe councils and a lot of territory to cover. And those are also peer-to-peer groups, good information. And so I would encourage Fire Safe Council steering committee steering committee members to attend those. And that's it for me. So this is kind of small text. I will try to make it a little bit bigger. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so we've given you our grant funding updates from time to time, and Chief Weisberger requested a more readable version, and Chief Ramirez handed us a template. So this is it. So I'm going to turn it over to Heather to give us our monthly update.
Well, I think the biggest update is that we rearranged the way that we're presenting the information. And there really isn't any new information at this level that more interesting, but we wanted to show you what it's starting to look like. This is something, like Tanya said, that Chief Ramirez sent us as a template, which breaks the categories into, grants and funds that were awarded. And you'll see here, the grant that's funding this particular, it says funding this particular work that we're doing now. The CAL FIRE funding for the Prescribed Burn Association and those kinds of things we've mentioned at various other meetings. And then in orange, we have ones that are kind of in application or in contracting. And this one has, for example, the Yolo County OES's Cal OES FEMA funding, that hazard mitigation funding. You look over to the right and it's the total amount. And we are, we have a whole separate spreadsheet that has all of those, all our individual stakeholder projects broken down and with status updates. It's kind of a question that we had internally about whether to leave it at this level of specificity or to break it out into individual projects, or to have a tab on an Excel spreadsheet that gets into the details of like large kind of block grant fund requests that go out the door. So if hopefully you're following me on that one, just this Yolo County OES, Cal OES FEMA one, that includes probably a collection of 15 or 17 projects that Kurt and Dana shepherded through, the notice of intent a few months back. And they have various status updates, which we can show you on a different spreadsheet. But then the rest of the categories are pre-application, things that we haven't applied for, and then ones that we have applied for and been denied. And this is just kind of showing you the overall structure of maybe how we might be presenting this in the future. Open to feedback.
I was wondering if you could create, and I know there's a lot of work, so just think about it before you just say yes, so we can do it. Because I know it can be done, but it's a ton of work. Could you have just tabs down at the bottom that we would look at, or tabs associated that you could put in somewhere clickable within the line themselves that would allow it to pull up more information about the details within any one line.
Yes, absolutely. We kind of started thinking that direction as we were working on how to present this today. If that's something it is something that we can do, it's really not that much more work and it would put it all in one spot. If you want us to present something like that at the next meeting.
I think it's helpful to have it all in one spot as we get used to, trying to associate which specific smaller projects are in which bigger line. I like this format, but it's only because I'm familiar with this format because it's what we use here at Yochitihi. So there could certainly be other formats that are good out there. But it would be nice to have it accessible all from one sheet. Anything else from the group on that?
Yeah, this is Elaine Roberts Muster. I totally agree with you. I like the idea of being able to click on something and getting more detail. I think that's important. And if you can include it all in one spreadsheet, that's great. Because I like the format here.
Great feedback. And I don't know, Tanya, if you, we were going to wait for Kurt to get to his report to show kind of what some of that detail ends up looking like.
Yeah, that's the next level of detail after we hear from Kate on, you notice the pre-application, and these are a little unfilled out, but we have a whole other tracking sheet. Does anyone have any more questions about this? Okay. In the reporting vein, I'm going to turn it over to Kate to let us know about all the grants that she's been tracking.
Tanya, I know that, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
That's
if
okay.
that third sheet was the CWPP progress, did you want to, is there anything you wanted? No, okay, just
Yeah,
checking.
that hasn't changed either, but it will be soon.
Did I unmute myself? Am I unmuted? Yes.
You're good.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. This is what I've got. This has been presented at a couple meetings ago. It's shows grant opportunities. And is it large enough? I enlarged it. Can everyone see it okay? Okay. So what this tracks grants related to fire or increasing firefighting capacity. And right now we have grants that are available from state and federal sources through, oh, it looks like November. They show due date, gives a funding opportunity number if the federal ones provide that. Shows total funding available if they provide that information, a maximum or minimum grant awards if that information is given, who to contact if you have questions, and then the URL where it can be found. And further, kind of just for information in your planning, whether or not it's a cyclical grant, whether you can expect it to come back again. And then also in the same spreadsheet, there's a tab for searchable funding databases. Right now, what's in there is the California State Library, which gives California grants, and grants.gov, which is the federal site. Also have ongoing funding opportunities that don't have specific deadlines, but are in some way related to fire, forest health. And then finally, every time that I update this spreadsheet, for example, coming up, I'll be removing this May 4th and May 6th opportunities because they'll be passed. I put them in the past opportunities worksheet because it can be a source of information so that people can plan. Some of these grants do come back around, and it just shows what's been available, what might come back available. And if anyone has any suggestions for how to improve these worksheets or to make them more usable or more relevant, please don't hesitate to let me know. I'm reza@yolorcd.org. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I have a question / comment. So it would be really helpful for the group to have or who's eligible column. Because my sense is that most folks in this group are not going to be grant writing for some of these projects to some of these programs. So if there's, like that Ready, Set, Go grant that I sent out was for fire departments. Yeah, it would just help to have an who's eligible column. And then, if anyone from this group wants to look at it, they can say, oh, that's the RCD is going to have to do that because we're not eligible.
Absolutely. I know there are grants that come out that are relevant to different groups. I've seen them for fire safe councils, for definitely for different fire departments, and of course RCDs and other governmental agencies. So yes, I will definitely add an eligibility column and populate that for the stuff I've got right now and in the future and going forward. Thank you, Tanya.
Yeah.
Always want to make it more relevant. Okay, is that it? Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to stop share and hand it back to you, Tanya.
Well, back on our list of many reports, I'm going to share the screen of our project updates. And Kurt is going to tell us about those since they are.
Okay, so just I'm going to start off with, good afternoon, everybody. Kurt from Yolo County OES. Thanks for attending the meeting today. It's greatly appreciated. So first thing I'll start off with, and I don't know if you want to scroll down a little bit. I don't know how much is in there, but if we'll start with the hazard mitigation grant program project list. As Tanya had mentioned, on behalf of all the communities in the county, Yolo OES submitted about 17 notice of interest, which were back in February. And then between February and April, we got some were declined due to ineligibility. Some were referred to a different program, and some are moved forward for sub applications. The sub application ones, I think there was about, and these are rough numbers because I don't remember exactly, but I think there was 8 or 9 that went on to sub applications, and those are still, because that closed about 3 weeks ago. Those have not yet, some have been resulted in decline due to ineligibility. Some are still in review. So what we'll do is we'll get an update on that list for you, Tanya, so that we can refine that. But I don't suspect that we'll have a total refinement of that list until the whole process is over, because in some cases, some things that might get pulled out might get brought back in. So as we know, when it comes to grants, you're not all the way out until you're all the way out, and you're not all the way in until you're all the way in. So with that, if you can scroll back up, I want to first thank Neil for being our test dummy, if you will, or our victim for going through this process. He's been very patient with us. He's been very assistive with Yolo OES. He's been helping us go through a process where we've actually had to work with all of our partners on our side, being legal staff, roads folks, community development, et cetera, as well as Department of Financial Services. And so I want to thank Neil for that. He's been very assistive and very cooperative in that process. And I know that there's a lot of people that have been reaching out to us to try and get updates, but unfortunately, it was more of one of those situations where we needed to get one scenario and then we could actually use that as a model moving forward. So just to give you a quick idea of what we've been dealing with over the last, I want to say, Neil, what do you think, about a month and a half almost we've been working on this? What we've been able to get back is information from our legal staff that have given us direction as to how to take and use these funds on private properties, how to allow us access to private properties. And this is all things that, like I said, Neil's been very helpful with us in working through some of this, as well as some specifics such as the right of entries. And with that, we've now submitted a right of entry form to our legal staff to kind of clean up that so that we have an idea of exactly what that looks like moving forward. In addition, we've been able to, through different channels, increase some of our contracts, specifically with West Coast Arborists, to help facilitate some of the tree removal, tree cleaning up processes that we have throughout different areas. And so that's one of the things we've done. Also loaded up some of these projects into our GIS, so we have a mechanism for tracking them to share with different partners, and specifically not just the end users, such as, I'll use Neil in this example to be able to compare the exact area that's in question, but all the way up to including checking our property ROEs against the actual property that might be in question for work to be done. We've also been able to secure from the county that it would appear at this point in time that the roads folks are going to do non-fee permitting to allow us an opportunity to not have to deal with some of the closure permits that might exist out there moving forward. So specifically, I know going back to Tanya's list, we had the eucalyptus project that is generally speaking is down in the Winters area. That's the one that I think for the most part Neil's been very helpful with. We have West Winters fuel reduction that we're working through. And in all those cases, we're working through the same issues with each and every one of those. And the next one was a Highway 16 fuel reduction. And I know the next two are very important for Cape Valley, but the Gwenda and Rumsey, Gwenda fuel reduction and the Rumsey Canyon Road were on the list. And I think the only one that we haven't been able to clean up, and this has been a major issue with regards to some of the CEQA issues that might come into play, or NEPA, was the one that we keep on referring to as a Grant Line Road, fire break road, and or with gates, with or without gates. So that one is probably going to be a back burner. There's going to be a lot more needs on that one. We've actually, we're looking at alternatives to accomplishing that. But that's definitely one of the things we're working on. Let's see, I think that hits on most of the things. Any specific questions that you might have, Tanya, before we open it up to everybody else? You said no, so okay. Let me ask everybody else. I think we hit most of the projects and kind of gave a backstory on most of it. Is there anybody that has any specific questions that we might be able to answer related to any of those projects?
This is Neil. I just want to say thank you, Kurt. You guys have done a lot of work and trying to find ways to accomplish what is in many ways a messy project with so many homeowners. So
I think, and I'm not like trying to toot anybody's horn here, but I would like to give a major kudos to Neil. He's been very patient with us. He's been very assistive with us. He's not just looking at things from, he's helping us in a way where it's not just about him and his local community, but he's helping us with the greater area, not just the west part of the county, but the entire process. So, if there was an award I could give you, Neil, you'd have it. And I, on behalf of Dana and I, we really do appreciate your assistance in this, and because everything that we've asked you to do, you've helped us get that stuff back, and it's allowed us an opportunity to go back to our partners in-house to get those answers to where we think right now we're going to be at a point where we can actually start moving that token forward in the process. Anybody else have any specific questions about any specific projects or the process that we expect to see move forward? I know it can't be that good. Dana, anything you want to add that you think I may have left out?
I'll just go ahead and add the chipper is here. So for the $120,000 for the kind of one season of the chipping program, because again, we're still trying to get the full value for that program in perpetuity. But the chipper, it was purchased and it's in the hands of Yolo County Flood Control Water Conservation District, who will be working with RCD to set up the schedule and everything of when and where that chipper is going to be and on what day. So we're very close to getting that off the ground.
And I'll throw in a little extra. RCD is working internally to develop and establish a program for the address signage for the west part of the county. And so we're moving that forward, and hopefully that'll be coming soon. And last one on the list, will be the first one on the list, is that siren system. We are currently putting together an RFQ to present to all the parties to send out for bids for companies to assess the different potentials for our community. I know that during the listening sessions, there was a high push to do sirens, but we want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence by considering any other options of systems that might be out there to assist us in the same with the same output, but with potentially other mechanisms along the way. Because as over the last 2 years since the LNU, there's been a lot of technology that's come into play that didn't exist 2 years ago or wasn't widely available 2 years ago. So we're really trying to find situations to help us with alternatives to notification to the community. So hopefully we'll see that out here in the next couple of weeks. Any other questions?
Adding about the chipper program and the address signs, we have determined that is a lot of outreach, educating the community on the fact that these programs are existing. And so we're going to be doing a big push probably starting next week on that.
And we should probably introduce Allie, our outreach coordinator now.
That's actually
All right,
later. That's later in the agenda.
Oh, I thought we skipped over it. I'm sorry, Tanya.
So Tanya, I'll say
Yes.
end of report.
Great.
End of report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think, Tanya, I think we're back to you.
I think you're right. Okay. So I just wanted to, Kurt talked about polygons for projects. So we actually, I think I will share my screen so you know what I'm talking about. I have in the past introduced the hub site to you, which is for the community wildfire protection planning process. It's sort of kind of a kitchen sink of information. There's just a bunch of stuff in there. Lots of maps. And then we have a new tab, which is, as the beauty of the hub site is that it's constantly updatable. It is a work in progress. So we have this new CWPP project map. So when you click on that, the projects that we're talking about have been put onto the map. It's again a work in progress, but just for fun, I will zoom in. Can everyone see this okay? And we did get some feedback from the steering committee to make it a little more readable, but I'm going to click. I know it's kind of pixelated right now, but this is Rumsey, and I'm going to click on this project. And then some information comes up. Oh, this is the County Road 41A veg management. So you can see the project name, the type, a short description, project lead, if it's shovel ready, permit required, budget, funding source. So that's just the beginning. We'll be using this for our community wildfire protection planning. And of course we can update it as needed because it's all, it will not be going into print. It'll be staying on the hub site. For anyone can access this. So does anyone have any questions about this? It's just another cool tool that we have. And I will put the hub site link in the chat. And I also, yeah. Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay. I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, now it is time to introduce our new outreach coordinator. Or have her introduce herself.
Oh,
Or Heather, you can introduce her.
sure, I will.
We didn't plan ahead on this.
Okay, so we hired Allie Perman, who is here today, and she can wave and maybe say a few things. But so this is something that's kind of been, it's part of several different grant projects. The California Fire Safe Council is helping to fund this work, and then also this Department of Conservation Regional Forest and Fire Capacity Building Program that's covering the RCD's time on outreach and on managing the chipping program. It's really just getting off the ground as well. But we are able to now utilize those funds. So we're really lucky to have Allie. She has a background in ecology and conservation, and has happened to be doing outreach and coordination of stewardship work locally for the past couple of years, and expanding her horizons here at the RCD to move into wildfire programming, and also Yolo RCD programming and the other things that we do here, conservation oriented. But half of her time is going to be spent on fire, and that includes getting a website fully functioning, being the sort of voice out in the social media, and providing updates. Our outreach is already improved in the last couple of weeks that she's been working here. To have someone dedicated to outreach is something that we've needed for probably for the last year. Finally able to have this. I think it's really going to help support all the work that all of us here are doing, and the projects that we've already got going, and things that we're going to be wanting to, especially in outreaching to the community and letting them know clearly what's available. So there's already a trifold brochure template coming out with the signage program, and she will also be getting our the chipping program, really that part about outreach and helping to coordinate, what days and what works best for, the community and that kind of thing. So those are the kinds of things Allie's going to be involved with. And I think she just today went to a website development committee meeting and is getting her feet wet in that. But I'll turn it over to Allie if there's anything else you want to say, and just introduce yourself to folks here.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Heather. Yeah, so like Heather said, my name's Allie. I'm the new outreach coordinator at the RCD, and I will be spending some time working on outreach for the RCD, but also for the Yolo County Fire Safe Council. And I guess I'll just dive into our website committee update, because I think that's next on the agenda. So we did have a website committee meeting today to discuss style, content structure, that sort of thing. And Heather and I worked together to send out a request for proposals out to website developers to bring someone on to start designing the website. We did get, I think, 5 or 6 responses from potential website designers, and we are going to narrow down those companies, those people, those developers, and hopefully start the process of web design very, very soon. That's one of our metrics in deciding, who's going to take on this project with us is, how soon we can start, so we can just really get the ball rolling with that. But yeah, we met with the website. I met with the website committee today, and we decided on some structure for the site style, some preliminary like content and that sort of thing. And Tanya already asked at the beginning about getting some photos from everyone and also suggestions about website links that are relevant to fire related, like emergency contacts or content, so that folks can stay informed, and our site can be sort of a hub for those other organizations that help inform folks on emergency and fire preparedness and all that stuff. So yeah, that's kind of where we are. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask now or shoot me an email, and I can respond. And oh, perfect timing, sorry. So yeah, that's all.
Thanks, Allie. I can put your email address in the chat. So if you need to reach Allie or reach to Tanya, we can point you in that direction to Allie.
Welcome, Allie. All right, well, if that's the end of that, we can move on to special presentation. Is that correct? All right, great.
So if you remember last week, Joaquin gave a presentation on different ways to run our chipper program. So we're honing that down. He's prepared a presentation on different ways to do address signs, which is a lot of outreach. So he has a couple of slides that he's going to share with us about different ways to do that. And our last agenda item is sort of getting some input from the Fire Safe Council about ways to run a chipper and or address sign program. If you guys have any other tips before we kick it off. So Joaquin, I have given you screen sharing power. There he goes. So you might be muted because we're not hearing anything.
Can you all hear me now?
Yes.
Awesome. And can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Tanya. So yeah, I'm just put a couple slides together to give everyone a brief introduction into what an address sign program is, what the benefits of it are, how several other programs have gone about operating it, and what the guidelines are for an address sign. So what a reflective address sign program is typically a program offered by a fire safe council, a fire protection district, or a fire department, and sometimes a collaboration between the three of them and other outside organizations, with a goal to supply residents in the area with clear and visible signs that meet the CAL FIRE guidelines in order to help responders find their home as soon as possible. And you can see a couple photos around here. This is a really common slogan for other programs to use. We can't help you if we can't find you. It's really just meant to make people as visible as possible to first responders. And it's meant to be accessible to everyone in the community. So signs are typically free or offered at a discounted rate by these programs. And what those CAL FIRE guidelines are that I mentioned in this last slide were the address signs must be at least 6 by 18 inches wide for 4-number addresses and 6 by 24 inches wide for 5-number addresses. And they have to be the numbers have to be at least 4 inches tall and 1/2 inch wide. And they have to be reflectorized and contrast with the background color of the sign. And they must be visible from both sides of the roads, including one-way streets. So depending on the way your address is shaped, this could be one single double-sided address sign, or this would be 2 address signs on either side of your driveway to make you visible on either way of travel. And you can see some photos. These are what address sign placement looks like. It can be either horizontal or vertical. And this was from CAL FIRE's Fire Safe Standards, just going over what those guidelines are. And so some benefits of reflective address signs are obviously they allow first responders to find you as soon as possible. They're visible in low light conditions, which is common for wildfire emergencies. They last for several years. They're UV protected, so they don't fade being in direct sunlight. which is nice. And they can help other residents, not just first responders, orient themselves when they're trying to evacuate in low light conditions as well. And there's some common methods that I've seen, 3 common methods that come with this program. And the first one is that residents complete a form online, select the closest pickup location to them, and pick up their address signs when they're notified that it's ready. You can see this photo, it's from the Yuba Watershed Protection and Fire Safe Council. This is their application where you basically put in your name, phone number, email, your address and your address number, what town you reside in Yuba County, whether you want a double-sided, single, or you want 2 single-sided signs, horizontal or vertical, whether you want the installation kit as well, and what your closest, you would select your closest pickup location from the pickup locations that they offer you. The other option is that residents can arrive at a facility. This is typically a fire station, but we could also have our Fire Safe Council building be the place to do it, where they would fill out the paperwork then and there, and they would get their address sign. And this is typically done same day, but the only other thing is that the people have to actually come in to fill out their paperwork. And then the other option would be that residents can complete a form online and then have the address actually shipped, delivered to their home, or delivered and installed at their home, but this usually costs money. And you can see in these lower photos, a lot of them in the Yuba Watershed Council, they don't charge. However, they request that it'd be nice if you gave a $20 donation, whereas Amador County, the people that do the deliver and installation of the address require either a $20 or a $25 payment for their signs and installation. Yeah, that's my short little brief presentation on what a reflective address sign program is.
Okay, I had a question, please.
Yeah.
Is there a way to put the installation fee inside the grant monies so that it costs them $0?
I believe so. I think that's what other programs have done. I think Heather could probably answer that question better, but it's definitely possible.
I think that's the goal of this initial early action funding would be, to be able to cover the cost of those signs. One of the things I feel like we need to do during the rollout of this is poll, maybe even in this group or with the community fire safe councils in particular, what the interest is, what the need is, what the concerns are around cost, installation, and so on. Some people are going to want installation, some people are going to want to do it themselves, I would imagine. But yeah, I think that's one of the jobs we need to put on our plate is finding out the need outside of the actual cost of the signage. And then we can adapt the program to the need, I would hope. But we're working on this in collaboration with OES too. So we'll have to figure out what's possible to do with the funding that we've got. Definitely have sign funding for printing out sign, getting those signs built or made, and then through the early action funding, and then our Department of Conservation Regional Forest Fire Capacity Building Program has funding for our time to coordinate it. Those are definite givens. When it comes to installation, it kind of adds some complexity that we have not kind of really dug into yet. But I'm really curious. It looks like there's a couple of hands up, and I want to hear what questions are, what people are thinking. I see Steve and then Maura, and then maybe Tanya, you might be watching.
Well, I want to jump in first and just remind everyone that this is voluntary, so we can't just show up with signs. People have to come to us. So that complicates it.
Steve and then Maura, do you want to make your comments or ask your questions?
Sure. I think when I was listening in 2 or 3 months ago, this topic came up, and I raised since I represent the In-Home Support Service Advisory Committee for the county, a number of the people have mobility challenges in the case of the fire emergency. So I think I said that, or say it again now. Is there some way to either the DMV symbol, something to highlight that there's somebody in that house that needs attention sooner than somebody that has mobility? And along with that, I would hope the fire agency would know and have an inventory who those people are so they can give them priority to evacuate.
This will be new territory for us at the RCD, but it seems possible and to be able to adapt signage and communication for those purposes.
Yeah, from what I've seen, Napa County actually offers, they have people who make these stickers on Etsy, and you can buy them on Etsy, and they have like the handicap logo, or they have a pool of water logo with however many gallons of water you have, or like a turnaround logo to show that it's available to be a first responder turnaround spot. No one has really come out with anything that comes directly on the address sign, but so far all I've seen are like little stickers that you can add on to it.
Just a quick comment. The problem with that is that you don't want to advertise that there's a handicapped person in there to thieves or things like that. So I think whatever symbol you put on there, it should be nondescript, like maybe just a white dot or something like that, that the fire department knows what it is, but generally people don't.
Mara, did you have a comment?
Joaquin, would it also be possible to include a list of other sources of custom-made signs that are also approved for 911 purposes? I'm thinking about here out in the country, we often need arrows to indicate different driveways that are going off of a dirt road, etc., or location of gates, things like that.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to drop a link in the chat to a company that actually does exactly that. They're the first company I've seen to do this. So I'm not aware of any other company that does this, but I have seen companies that do that, and we can definitely put that information out there.
Thank you.
This is Neil. First of all, let me just say how important this issue is. And I've been, as I said before, involved in 6 or 7 mandatory evacuations here. And it starts with the sheriff's department, police departments coming here, trying to go to every home to alert people to get out. And one of the things that we've found is that they miss some of us. And, you know, I think I have a house that is very visible from the road, but there have been twice on these mandatory evacuations where they've literally missed us, and other neighbors have been missed as well. So this signage is very important. And our signage at my home needs to be improved, and been waiting for it. But I just wanted to comment that it's not going to be easy for the installation. I use a telephone pole, and my numbers are out on a telephone pole. Well, that's obviously not been the effective way of doing it. So I'm going to have to create some sort of a signpost. And so if as we're thinking about how to install it, we really do have to think about installations that are pretty non-standard, or starting from the beginning to have to create entirely new signposts. So it may be maybe more than what we should take on, is to take on the installation of them and leave the installation to the homeowner. That would be my suggestion.
Cape Valley Fire, do you have a comment?
Hey, yeah, I just had a couple of comments. In the past, Cape Valley had a address sign program. It was not a free address sign program. We would basically charge the cost of the materials only, and then the volunteers would go out and install them at people's houses free of charge. it's probable that the outreach wasn't very good. The response that we got from the community was not overwhelming. So we're really excited, obviously, that that these signs will be potentially made available for free, because everybody likes free, and there are a number of residences out here that are really undermarked, very hard to find. A couple of people that I've talked to regarding, having an organization come out and install these signs have brought up the idea of digging post holes in the Caltrans or the county easements, and wondering what the regulations would have to be as far as, dialing 811 before you dig and all of these things. I think in the past, for Cape Valley at least, it was just kind of an acceptable risk, like more important to go and get the things in. But I think that every organization sort of has to take that into account for themselves. But my hope is that a number of these, rather than having to set 4x4s, which obviously increases the cost, that they would be easy enough to mount on a T-post, which is relatively cheap and pretty easy to place in the ground. So hopefully that would make it more accessible. And the last thing that I wanted to mention is I missed some of Kurt's update because our local resident deputy stopped by because he had heard about the address sign program at a Severa training that we did over the weekend. And he wants to be part of the local outreach up here. If he can encourage any of our residents to jump on the bandwagon with this and make the effort, I'm really happy that he's willing to do that. And so I'd encourage everybody to think of every available avenue to let the residents know that this is available and that it's really necessary.
We're getting some really great feedback. I hope that, well, we're recording this session, and Joaquin, I hope you're taking notes. Tanya's taking notes. I can already, my mind is kind of going in several different directions of what would be incentivizing and then what could be barriers, and how we can roll this out in a way that's equitable and is incentivizing enough to actually have it done, so we don't have folks with a sign and not the ability to install it and all of this. So there's more to even just, the signage program important. It's relatively straightforward. I feel like we can also, I feel like we should also be able to handle, communications with Caltrans, coordination with other issues that come up in terms of digging a hole in the ground as part of the process. Sometimes it's simple and sometimes it's going to be complicated. So there's several steps that we're going to have to take and kind of organize ourselves on, not only just signing up to apply for a sign, but following through on interest, and then addressing the case-by-case issues that folks have. So there's more to do.
Yeah, there's if you can see the chat from Jeff, there's a program in Lake County that sounds pretty effective. This is exactly the conversation that we needed to get our outreach off the ground. So thank you, guys. We thought address signs would be the low-hanging fruit, but as it turns out, it's complicated.
And I know, Heather, also I'm wondering too, and perhaps this is already out there, but it is, if when they apply, there could be information requested within the application process or email that returns to them once they just have some level of interest. It asks them a lot of these questions. Do you have, is the area you'd like to put the sign yours, or is it a right of way of Caltrans or others? Do you have a location in mind? Is it difficult? Do you have access issues or functional issues that you'd like to also have addressed? you know, there's a number of things that we could put on the questionnaire that they would then return that would allow us to better work with them on their request.
And then we might be able to, depending on how this goes, engage the Boy Scouts or other volunteer groups who are interested in helping out the community to do voluntary installation. I'm not sure. So this could be turned into a few other things, a way to get creative, help folks out. I don't want to start another committee, you know, of signage committee. Probably the best way to work on this is through for us to be working on the back end here, and then reaching out to the community groups in particular as we're moving forward.
Yeah, I think we've gotten some great input just today. Yeah. Kurt, were you going to say something? Oh, no.
Heather and Tanya, can you hear me?
Yes, hi, Kurt.
Okay. Chief Ramirez, I got a question for you regarding addresses. Do you think, and this might go to Jesse too, and Chief Lopez, do you think it would be appropriate for you guys as the fire departments to set a standard in terms of like location on properties, and that way we can maybe have a handout that would go to people to give them guidance as to where to place it?
And I think in an ideal world, it'd be great, but properties are just so wide and varied that it may be difficult to achieve. I don't know, what's your, Jesse, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Damon Snow actually had some standards that they had used in some other area, maybe up in the foothills somewhere. It wasn't a hard and fast in relation to the road. I think it was more of a ideal distance from the property boundary itself. And it might have allowed a little bit more flexibility given, you know, things like long driveways or pushback fence lines or something. But certainly the closer to the road, and I liked the standard that Joaquin had in the presentation, having it elevated a certain distance from the ground makes it easier for all of us.
I think this would be a good one, Kurt, to bring to the Fire Chiefs Association and get on their agenda, so that, you know, Joaquin, we could go through his presentation and then provide perhaps some minimum standards like what Damon has had, or some ideal standards, whether they were able to get close to it or not, and see if the fire chiefs were willing to push it out through their fire districts. Then you're going to get some buy-in through all the Yolo County fire protection districts.
Yeah, I had been chatting with Dana about giving a presentation to the chiefs to get them on board.
So if we could come dial this in just a little bit more, maybe for our next meeting, and then go the following meeting to the Fire Chiefs Association, I think they would be more than willing to back it and help push it along.
For your June meeting?
Yeah, maybe for a June meeting.
I mean, wait, I'm sure we'd have it figured out by the May meeting, but their input is going to be essential as well. And Damon was checking on, you know, so the information that Joaquin presented for the CAL FIRE and other emergency services approval, occasionally other districts will have higher standards, but Damon did some checking in our county and found that those standards are good, the CAL FIRE standards.
Yeah, and I'm on the line, by the way. I'm just driving, but
hey.
Jesse was correct. Jesse was correct. We had some basic standards through the state. There is no local adopted ordinances. And I do have some other fire chiefs within the county that haven't reached back out on my email confirming or denying that they do have local ordinances. So we could definitely talk with the fire chiefs meeting and have that discussion, and then try and get a synopsis, or at least a buy-in with everybody.
All right, anything else on the address sign before we move on? I think that actually does the special presentation and the planning piece. Is that fair to say?
I would say so, yeah.
All right, if there's nothing else on those, thanks for your great work and thanks Joaquin for that. And we'll try and dial it in a little bit better and move forward. All right, now we have the next meeting is Wednesday, May 25th from 4 to 5:30. Is there anything else for the good of the order before we sign off for the day?
I just want to say this Fire Safe Council rocks. I mean, what we started a year ago. I am so impressed with how much is happening and the funding coming in and the projects happening. So I think y'all deserve a big pat on the back.
Thank you, Tracy. Thanks to Tanya and also to Heather and Joaquin and everybody that does the hard work and the heavy lifting, Dana and Kurt and everybody who takes their time to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great group.
Well, on that high note, we'll sign off for the day and adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Bye-bye.
Bye, thanks.